Not sure if many of you know, but we do have a virtual tier within the Design Coven, virtual pro member tier, which includes 3 virtual meetings a month where we set intentions. We do group coaching. So bring all your questions. We answer those questions and you get to learn from other people going through the same struggles as you. We also do a business practice meeting. So we'll have somebody on to share a business practice that we can all benefit from. And then we also do a product training. So getting a sustainable, eco-friendly line to come on, share who they are so that we can be supported with other like-minded businesses. And if you're not quite ready for pro, you can always join our free community where you will connect with other like-minded holistic interior designers. You don't have to be an interior designer if you are kind of just dabbling or you're aspiring or you're looking into this field. We invite everybody from all journeys, and you don't, again, have to be a designer. You don't have to have a degree. We're just a beautiful community of like-minded people looking to create healing spaces, not just for ourselves, but for our clients and future clients. Come join us at designcoven.com/join. Welcome to episode 68 of the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast. And showing up for future clients and showing our faces and our personalities is so important for people to learn about us, to like us, and to trust us, of course. And on today's episode, I get to talk with filmmaker Alex Palumbo about his journey and how he uses film to help other creatives communicate to their potential clients. Let me tell you a little bit about Alex. He is here in San Diego, and I got to connect with him in person, which is always so very cool. So Alex is living at the intersection of commercial and documentary storytelling. He is a filmmaker and photographer who searches for truth and showcases human stories through a lens of authenticity. His films have been featured at film festivals around the world, and his camera is how he connects best with others. Alex works on commercial, documentary, and narrative projects and is based in San Diego. We had a beautiful conversation today. I just think video is such a magical way to connect with others. I encourage you all to step out in front of the camera and let the world see you, see your light, and I want to connect with you. You're listening to the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast. This is a podcast that guides you as a new or inspiring independent interior designer navigating your entrepreneurial path. Here, with my over 20 years experience, I will share my holistic approach to design with intention and ancient practices, including feng shui, all incorporating mind, body, and spirit into my design projects. You will also learn from seasoned interior designers as they give strategies and insight of how they built their businesses and continue to work in the field. Together, we will discover supportive trade partners, new ideas, creatives, and inspiring artists from around the world. I am your host, Rachel Lorraine Crawford. Hello. Welcome back. We have Alex Palumbo on with Slack Tide. Is it Slack Tide Films?
Slack Tide Films, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm super excited to have Alex on with us. We're going to dive into his origin story with film and just how important it is to connect on this media. I was telling him when I first met him that, seeing our faces and video and just being able to connect on a personal level is so important, especially when you're wanting to connect with potential clients. And Alex just has a way about him and his work that I feel like really can portray your personality to those potential clients and people coming into your world. So before we get into our conversation, I'm going to go ahead and open up our space, getting connected into the present moment, just by ringing a bell and connecting with that element of air. Connecting back into our bodies, and of course, lighting a candle. There's so much magic in the element of fire, just with creativity, passion, desire, all those things. So I am going to light this. And for me, this is also about, just setting that intention. Same thing with what I do with all my projects, really setting the intention and connectiveness with the energies that we're wanting to cultivate and bring into our space. So, and I'm going to pull a card. So I've got the Moon BB Magic deck from Angela Mary Magic. She's in Huntington Beach. She's super rad, and I just love her cards and the energy that she brings. So let's see what we have. I'm going to pull the cards right side up, as I always do. And this is really just to kind of tap into an energy field, a theme of sorts, guidance for us. And we've got the Tower. This is turmoil, and the Tower card is one of those cards that seems really scary and destructive and like all this stuff, but I do welcome this into our lives. And I feel like I just went through Tower moments, and I'm still kind of going through a little bit of those Tower moments of like completely breaking everything down, starting from the ground up, like burning things down, and thinking of ways to build in brand new options and in brand new ways, and also just taking like that stuff that burnt down and using that as fertilizer to grow something new in our world. So I do welcome the Tower, even though it can be one of those scary cards for sure. So Alex, I always ask, and I'm always interested in what people nourish themselves with. What are you currently consuming
I'm having
in that way?
a boring bottle of water, but I drink a ton of it.
Water is just one of those things I feel like you can't get enough of it. It's like so simple and basic and true, but water can also be the basis for, life force energy. It's the basis for like the tea that I'm drinking and all other things. And so I don't think there's anything boring about that. There's life in that water.
It's really life water, yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love it. So I've got a Daisy Wild Tea from Paru, and it's got green tea and daisy chrysanthemums, which I just thought was really special. And it's very low caffeine. I usually can only do so much caffeine in the morning. And my boys wanted tea this morning, so I was like digging through all the things and what can I get that's not so crazy caffeine. And this was the tea that we decided to have a ritual with this morning. So super special. So Alex, I always also ask what is home for you at the moment. It could be the idea of home, like your literal home. What is home?
I mean, yeah,
at the moment.
That could be a whole conversation on its own. I think home is feeling like I'm on the right track of life and doing what I am meant to be doing, which I do feel that, and to me, that's home.
Yeah. And we also found out when I first connected with you on Dina's episode, because you had participated in San Diego Design Week, is that we're neighbors. We live in the same neighborhood. And so I thought that was really fascinating. And we got to connect over coffee and really explore, all these things. And you recently moved back, or like, can you tell me a little bit of where you were living before and how you came to Leucadia?
Yeah, so I'll run through a quick origin story. I won't make it too long, but I'll give you the highlights. So I went to college in South Carolina, graduated, moved to LA, worked first in the finance world at Hulu, and then I went to an electric car startup, worked in supply chain. And that whole time I was always shooting on the side. I never saw it as a viable income. I always saw it as just kind of this fun thing or a hobby. And maybe partly because I didn't think I was good enough to do it, which at that time I really wasn't yet. But again, I was in the beginning of my process. But I guess I also didn't have many examples of that in my life, of full-time artists who were doing that as their only professions. I didn't really see that. My father was a musician, but he did it for fun. My mother was a photographer, and she did it, not really as her main income. So I didn't really see that example. I didn't really know that was an option. So that time I was working in the corporate world in LA, I started exploring ideas of moving back to New York because I was kind of getting tired of living in LA. And then at that time, I got news that my dad was diagnosed with brain cancer. So that gave me the reason to then quit my job and move back to New York. I helped my family during that time. He passed about 16 months after diagnosis. So then I kind of found myself living back in my hometown helping my mom out with things, taking care of my dad's business, kind of being there and being supportive. And with that came time, a bit more time, to start exploring this side career that I had. And also too, there was a really big catalyst there of, my dad passing at 54. This was 4 years ago now. And as a young man, and I at that time was 27, and it was scary. It was like, all right, so life isn't guaranteed. I don't know how long I have. And to be spending it doing something I'm not really in love doing, it seems like a waste of life to me. So that was a big catalyst into really pushing myself towards this other life. It did take some time to get to where I am now as being full-time creative. It was a bit of a process, about a 3-year kind of transition from that life to this life. And we could reference that turmoil at the beginning of the show. There was a big turmoil there internally, and in a lot of ways where I felt guilt about doing that life. I felt a lot of reasons why I shouldn't, a ton of imposter syndrome, a ton of fear. And COVID really was also the final catalyst for me, where, I was sitting in my house and looking at who I was surrounded by, what I was spending my time doing, thinking, is this what I'm happy with going forward? And the answer was no. I wasn't satisfied because I knew I had more to be doing, or that I should be doing. And I basically just started working with a coach, a life coach. His name's Santi. He was great. And I joined a men's group. And those two things were really good support systems to give me that backbone that I feel like I didn't have. And they helped me kind of find that on my own. And then I just circled the date on the calendar and just chose it. And it was December 28th. I moved 3 days after Christmas. So not this past December, one before that. And I just drove out west. And this is now my second time moving out west. The first time was after college for the corporate world. And this time felt like it was almost my first time living out here. I almost don't consider my time in LA as me even. It's just like another version of me, or an earlier form of me that wasn't fully, developed into who I am now, and wasn't fully confident as to who I am now too.
So tell me how Slack Tide came to be. Like, when you moved out here, did you have this vision of creating this company and what you're wanting to do, or did it kind of slowly evolve? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so the entity of Slack Tide actually started before I moved. So pre-COVID, I actually hosted an art show in Long Island, New York. I was feeling frustrated at the lack of community in my area, especially between artists. And I was kind of feeling like, all right, we're in a population of 7 million people on this island, yet I'm feeling very alone in terms of people I could create with and do projects with, and that kind of world. And that drove me to, okay, I'm going to make the community. If I can't find it, I'm going to make it. So I curated the work of myself and 14 other local artists, mainly photographers and digital artists. And I found a local venue that was open to it. It was this place called Swell Taco in Patchogue, New York. And they were super receptive, like, sure, like, take the whole back patio. And it was really minimal planning. It was kind of like, I don't know, a month before it was supposed to happen. And we threw it together, and we had great turnout. We had 300 something people that came out. And it really was a moment where everyone there said thank you for doing this. Literally the vibe of the people in here is great. And everyone kept talking about how energetic the whole event was. And it was really motivating. It was like, all right, this is something that I should continue pursuing, because this made me feel good. It made others feel good, and it lit me up. And I said, okay, so that's something I should chase. And then COVID happened. And then that year I couldn't do the show. So what I did was I made a magazine version of the show. I chose another 14 artists plus myself, curated some work, and I made a 170-page coffee table magazine to show off a bunch of work from different artists. And that theme of that issue was the ocean. So it was the stories and photos from people around the ocean. And I'm working on volume 2 right now. It's been about 2 years in the making, because I've had life kind of happen in between, and a ton of other projects. And so that's kind of the and that show was actually called the Slack Tide Art Show. This is
Okay.
actually, I have a flyer right here. Slack Tide Art and
Yeah, let me
Music Show. That's what I
see.
called it. So
Amazing.
this is the first flyer I made for that show. This was like 2.5 years ago, and
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
these are all
So
the
rad.
artists. Yeah, so that's kind of the name I came up with while coming up with this show. I just, because the idea of Slack Tide is, so I was really into spearfishing at that time, and I was getting really into it. I'm still
Okay.
into it now, but I was really learning it then. And slack high tide was the best time to dive because that's when the most water was available, the visibility was best, and you didn't have the current pulling you as you're trying to dive. And the idea of also slack tide is the period of time before a change, and it's the kind of time to pull together and to maybe reassess something before then taking action. So I like the idea of that. It's just kind of a powerful moment of really potential energy before it becomes kinetic. That's essentially what slack tide is. So, and I just like the nautical nature of it, growing up on the water. That's my dad always told me that I have salt water running in my veins. So that's just a part of me, I feel like. So the magazine was called the Slack Tide Magazine. The show was the Slack Tide Art and Music Show. And I kind of then just kept rolling that forward. And it just, when it came time to feel like I needed to establish a studio to, I guess, give myself validity or legitimacy in the network here. So moving out, when I first moved out, I didn't operate under that name. I was still just under my website, my name as my website, which, I mean, there's schools of thought as to the best way to approach that. I mean, some people make a whole career being cinematographers or DPs and just staying as their name. But I was trying to think more long-term where I want to basically be a boutique studio where I'm not directly tied to my name, where, you know, let's say I'm at a scale where I'm taking on too many projects. I can start bringing on team members under the Slack Tide banner, and we can be involved in more work, a diversity of work, and not just be tied to whatever Alex can do with his camera. It can be more of a, what's the collective of artists that can do together. So, and that's still in the works. It's definitely going to continue evolving over not just this year, but over my life. And I'm excited to see where that goes.
So cool. So when is this next magazine? When is this due to arrive or come out? Or
I'm aiming for the fall. This show has taken precedence, so now I can mention when this airs, actually, the show will have been a great success, and magazine maybe might be out at that point by November. But that's what I'm aiming for. It's November. I'm still dialing in the size of this issue, the format, how if I want to skew more editorial or stay more kind of like art gallery vibe. So I'm trying to still figure that out, and I'm sure that's going to also evolve as the issues go on. But in the meantime, I've also done a bunch of smaller zines, these little 12-page
zines,
kind of mini projects. So I like print. I think print is something that we've kind of lost with the infinite scrolling that's been going on, where you look at a piece of art in person, it's so much more tangible. You can feel it, versus you look at something over through a screen and then you get bombarded by a text notification, something else, and then it's gone. So I think it can evoke more emotion. The same thing like an in-person show can evoke the same emotions of really being present with the thing you're viewing, not just consuming it on your feed like you're an animal eating a trough, out of a trough.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know who you're featuring in this volume and what the theme is, or can you give us a glimpse to what all that is?
So the theme of this volume is going to be the community issue. So I'm still working out submissions and artists that I'll be featuring, but it's going to focus on work that involves community, and that's a broad topic intentionally, so it can cover kind of however anyone wants to cover that, whether it's the opening of a skate park for kids in Tijuana, or if it's a group of friends that, you know, ride bikes together here in San Diego. So it's pretty broad. I want to see a real range of work within it, and a range of stories, everything from poetry to, you know, photojournalism in there. So that's yeah, I'm still in the curating stage of that right now.
Amazing. And are you going to have some sort of a film component that is attached to the magazine, or is it
I
going to be kind of a
ideally I
separate
would. What
sort of
actually
entity?
I've been exploring was having film components attached to it and just having it through QR codes within the actual magazine.
Yeah,
So you could be
absolutely.
scrolling through. So it becomes more kind of multimedia interactive. So as you're scrolling through the
Mm-hmm.
magazine, you see
Mm-hmm.
this one kind of segment, an article maybe about documentaries, a photo series, and some write up and some copy. And then there might be a QR card in the middle of that article where you can scan that and then watch a 30-second kind of companion piece that goes with the
Yeah.
article. So it just kind of gets more of the senses involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that idea. So can you tell us, do you have any current projects that you're super excited about, or that you're pumped up over, or things that have kind of inspired you lately?
Yeah, so I mean, lately I've been, I think, in a transitional period myself, or turmoil, let's say, in terms of what I want to be working
Mm-hmm.
on. So I think I've been definitely hitting a point of burnout, and this is now in mid
Okay.
September. I feel like I'm kind of coming out of that right now, but I would say like last
Okay.
month and month before that, I was kind of in a burnout stage where I was feeling just the constant go, 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 go. And, trying,
Mm-hmm.
setting meetings, networking, trying to find clients. It's just like a constant of selling yourself, which don't get me wrong. I love the fact that I can make
Yeah.
an income with my camera, but also too, there's an element of kind of having to sing for your supper, let's say, where it kind of takes away from the creativity of it. So the projects that
Mm-hmm.
are exciting me most now are not the client work or not the paid projects. It's the
Okay.
projects that I can just do with either my friends, or let's say it's a project I want to shoot about fishermen in Baja. That, it's not going to be for a client.
Yeah.
It's not going to be paid. It's just going to be because I want to do it. So now I'm trying to get to a point where I'm freeing up enough time to take on those personal projects. And because now, I'm finding my time is 90% not shooting. So the one thing I'm best at
Wow.
is telling stories with my camera. I'm spending the least
Yeah.
amount of time doing it because all the other components of running a business come with, the invoicing, contracts,
Absolutely.
emails, just the networking, all of that is taking the lion's share of my time. So to me, it feels inherently inefficient. If I'm really good at one thing and I'm spending the least amount of time doing it, something needs to change there. So I'm trying to figure out a better balance there. I've been bad with giving myself days off, giving myself time off.
Okay.
Being self-employed, it's hard to clock out. You can't. I'm checking my email at night. I'm working on weekends because sometimes I like to and I want to, but then I'm not giving
Right.
myself that time off. And if I do, I have this kind of guilt of, oh, I don't deserve
Absolutely.
it yet. I haven't built enough yet to take that time off.
Yeah, I could totally relate with everything that you've just spoken of. And lately, just in my own business, I'm really trying to be intentional about how I'm spending that time, and creating like these time blocks and theming out my days of the week, and like intentionally putting in time off, time out to refresh, renew, to be present with other things that are important in our lives. And I think, also in interior design, like we are, especially if we're running our own businesses, it's 80% of, paperwork and the business aspects. And what you were just saying with invoices and creating purchase orders and following up on orders and checking in on contractors. And then, I might get 20% to actually design and source and be very creative in this space, which, I feel like, maybe when we're in school or when we're thinking about becoming a creative, like that's never like at the forefront. We don't really think much about it, but I think creating systems and procedures, and also building a support to help us with those sorts of things. I know this year, like one of my biggest lessons is being able to receive support, to connect with others, to realize the things that I don't want to do and what's sucking up my time, or the things that I procrastinate on, to be able to ask for somebody to kind of come in, and you don't have to hire somebody full time or even be an employee, but you can, outsource some of these things for, a few hours. And there are people that are so inspired by you and what you're doing that they want to be part of it. So I feel, and that's something too that I realized, that, we're doing so many really cool things and things that are unusual or different, and people want like just a glimpse of it or just to have a little part of it, and they're willing to help. So just like kind of putting that out there for anyone else that's sort of listening or, being a creative, and same for you and with me. And like I said, this has been a huge learning thing for me, especially this year. But I find it, really supportive in that way. And I was in complete burnout September of last year. Like I was at a space where I just wanted to like quit everything. So I can totally feel all of that with what you're saying.
And that's a good reminder. Asking for help is tough for whatever reason or whatever blockages that are there that make you feel like, whether it's pride or whether it's, I don't know what it is, but you kind of feel like you have to take on all this burden yourself. You can't ask for help, and maybe it cheapens the success if you did ask for help, but which it doesn't. It really just, especially in the field I'm in, and I think most creative fields, they're so teamwork centric. Well, sure, I could be the one person on a shoot holding the camera with the mic on it, doing everything, but sometimes it takes away from the final product, and I think it makes me less present. So I feel fortunate on certain projects I'm able to bring on 2, 3, 4 people to be part of it. So I have a crew, and it makes the end result better. It makes the subjects we're filming, I think, more appreciative because I'm able to be more present as the director. If I'm conducting interviews, say we're shooting a documentary, you can just be more there.
Absolutely. So what project are you wanting to kind of bring into your life? Like, what are you craving right now, and who do you want to work with?
It's a tough question because I think there's a lot of projects I want to do. I guess it's easier to answer what I don't want to do.
Okay.
I
maybe let's start there. What don't you want to do?
I don't want to shoot weddings, and I don't want to do just kind of like the basic corporate kind of talking head projects. I'm looking for more of the kind of more creative, artistic projects, and I kind of see it as I have 3 main avenues of projects I like shooting, and I kind of segment them in that way because they are all different and I enjoy them all. So it's hard to pick just one type. So I'd say my favorite one is the documentary, and it could be, like a classic documentary you think of that's on Netflix about some larger topic or some broader idea where it's over several months of shooting, or it could be something as small as it's a 1-day shoot in a small fishing village, just interviewing a couple of fishermen and telling a story of a small town. Or it could be just one artist and focusing on them and their creative process. So the kind of human stories, I think, are my number one favorite project to tell. And luckily, a lot of companies and brands see the value in that, and they realize that just selling a product just because of the product alone sometimes feels cheap if they support an artist also. And it's called branded documentary content. That's something that I think is a nice blend of able to make money with and also to tell a story of another artist and also get paid in the process doing it. So I think the passion projects are my favorite as terms of these docu projects. The branded documentaries, I think, are also a lot of fun to shoot as client work. And then that's kind of the one arm. And then we'll go to the commercial arm, which is, I think, still a blast. I think it's quicker turnover where every project's so different, and you have a lot of kind of room to play depending on the project or the client. And it could be, anything from spearfishing in Mexico to a fashion project in Laguna. So it could be pretty broad, or something in New York. And commercial, it's a pretty broad term, but it basically means anything that's more stylized or less documentary than the branded content. So that's another arm. And then the third arm is narrative, which is something that's kind of newer for me, and I'm really enjoying it. And that's the classic movie. And for now, I've only worked on shorts, and I'd like to shoot a feature-length narrative within the next couple of years. And I'm actually going to, by the time this airs, I'll have shot my 3rd narrative short in New York. And they've been a blast. I've worked on 2 so far, and working with actors and actually having lines that these actors are delivering, and you're having to kind of give feedback. So far, I've co-directed both of them with my buddy AJ, who's been the screenwriter for both of them. And It's been
Wow.
a really challenging process, but it's been like film school also. I didn't go to film school. I'm all self-taught in this. So I kind of entered the industry from kind of a side door or a back
Mm.
door. And
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
times where I feel like I could have picked up on a lot of these more basic kind of routine things through film school, but it's fun to learn it on the job, on actually doing it. I'm a big believer in experience over just reading something. You know, you could read an article about how to
Absolutely.
do something, but once you actually do it, it's when you actually really
Yeah.
learn it. So yeah, those are kind of the three avenues. So the documentary, the commercial, and the narrative are what I like to focus on.
Amazing. I love it. I love it so much. Can you tell us a little bit about that narrative that you're working on, or can you give us a little bit of a teaser of what that's about?
Yeah, so this is with the director in New York, Matt Maffei, and it's called Home Videos, I believe, or Home Video. It's basically a family piece, let's say in the vein of A Tree of Life of Terrence Malick, kind of like that idea of it's
Mm.
kind of a vignette of a family. It's set in the 90s, kind of ambiguous
Okay.
about the decade. And it's not really going to be one of those
Yeah.
kind of clear cut, there's a story, this arc, and then it ends. It's going to be more of
Got it.
these kind of a peek into this family's life for 10 minutes. And it's not really going to be chronological either. It's going to kind of time jump. It might be
Mm.
months or a couple of years between scenes, but you just kind of see this dynamic. And it reminds me also a
Wow.
bit too of We Are the Animals. I think his name is Justin Torres. It's this fictional novel about a family in Texas growing up, and it's kind of along those lines as well. So yeah, we're shooting it in New York City, and I think we have a house rented in Queens as the home location. It's got some really
Mm.
cool wallpaper on the homes, and we're gonna
Okay.
set design it pretty well too.
Rad.
And yeah, we have some scenes we're filming in
Ugh.
Midtown, probably not Times Square, but in that kind of area-ish. And we're going
Okay.
to try to date it
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
bit so it looks like it's in the 90s and based on, like, you know, what streets
So
we're
rad.
choosing and what cars are on the street. And we're going to shoot it, you know, pretty guerrilla style.
Yeah.
It's going to be a pretty small crew, probably myself as DP, which is, for people who don't know, it's the director of photography or the cinematographer of a piece. That's the DP.
Okay.
And then you have the director, which is going to be Matt. And then we have 4 actors. We have a mom and a dad and 2 kids. And then we have,
Nice.
I'm sure we're going to have a couple of assistant cameras and production assistants on set as well. But
Oh
it's
my
a 3-day
gosh.
shoot. Yeah, yeah. I'm excited.
So rad. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. And you'll have to share it with everybody, and we'll post
Yeah,
it
of course. Yeah.
and all of that. So I'm curious, you've got all these things going on. How do you stay grounded? What do you do to stay centered or connected to yourself? Any
That's a great
practices that
question
you're
because I think it's interesting. So running has been, I think, one of the best things that's kept me doing something daily.
Mm.
It's been something I kind of rely on as being consistent because my days are so varied. I have days where I'm shooting. I have days where
Yeah.
I'm client meetings. I have days where I'm doing paperwork. I'm doing editing. So my days are always different, and not every day is the same, which is great. But also, too, it can be really difficult when I'm on the road for 2 or 3 months at a time. Like earlier this summer, I was on the road for 2 months,
Mhm.
and it's really easy during that time to find yourself kind of floating away, where your head
Mm.
is just miles above your body, and you don't know really what's going on because you're eating out more, or you're, you know, sleeping in different places while working on different projects. And
Right.
before you know it, you kind of like come up for air, and you're like, where am I? What am I doing? What's been my daily routine that's keeping me me? And sometimes that's really easy to lose. So I need to find a better process of being grounded on the road, whether it's just taking 5 minutes to just write a few sentences
Yeah.
and just do some breathing. So that's fully on me. I have some resistance to building that into my routine for whatever reason, but I know I need to.
Mm.
But I have some type of
Okay.
blockage there about wanting to do it. Maybe it's fear of doing it. I don't know. There's something there. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
here now, based in San Diego, I have my time where I could run daily. I have time to exercise. It's been kind of my meditation
Okay.
in a way. Yeah. So the thing is, though, it's really easy to slip out of that. I get busy for a week,
Yeah, for sure.
and like really busy, and then it's like those routines kind of slip. And like this morning, actually, I have a full day scheduled today, and I actually got up
Yeah.
2 hours earlier so I could make sure I worked out this morning and just sweat and was able
Got it.
to get outside and kind of
Mm.
feel something before then starting plunging into my work day.
And so are you doing sort of these things like at the same time, or does it kind of vary, or do you like intentionally plan them? It looks like today you were really intentional about setting aside some time to do this. Is that something that you've been practicing with, or is this new?
Yeah,
Or
and ebbs and flows. I think there are times in my life where I'm really consistent with it and I'm really good at sticking to it, and there are other times where I kind
yeah.
of don't prioritize it. I think I've been better recently with setting boundaries in that way with myself. So
Mm.
typically, in
Hmm.
the past, I would have scheduled something at kind of any time to whatever worked for the other person. While now I'm trying to be more intentional about,
Right.
okay, if I do this, it's going to make the rest of my day maybe more stressful, more difficult. So I had maybe this time block
Right.
for a call or a meeting, and that's it. And I've been trying also to keep 1 or 2 meeting days, or at the very least, just keep my phone calls and meetings to within a 2-hour time block mid morning, where then if any other
Hmm.
request comes in after, because meetings can become really like it turns your days into Swiss cheese. You get the small request for
Yeah.
30 minutes here, 15 minutes there. Before you know it, your day's
Yeah.
gone and you didn't have really any time for focused work. So I've been getting better at being more intentional about that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So how can somebody find, the new magazine, your work? Like, what's the best way to experience the art that you're creating in the world?
So my website's probably best. It's
Okay.
slacktidefilms.com. The magazine will be on there on one of the tabs. That's where most of my new work is uploaded to. Instagram also, I'm
Cool.
not great at using it. That's something else I'm kind of been struggling with, you would say, where I was off it for months. But then also too, it's kind of
Okay.
out of principle of not wanting to feed the social media
Right.
kind of life, which I think I'm kind of frustrated at the kind of transactional nature and the kind of
Mm.
emptiness of it. And I think that people are just kind of devaluing creative work overall. Even calling it content, honestly, is a pretty gross term.
Yeah.
It cheapens it. Because no, it should be
Mm.
considered as art if it's made that way. If it's
Right.
made with that intention, I think there's a difference there too. If it's made with it's just content, and then it's
Absolutely.
content. It's ready for the feed, literally feed.
Right.
And
Right.
so my work isn't that updated that frequently on Instagram, but I intend to use it a bit more because frankly it does work in getting me clients and getting my work out there. If I'm being
Right.
followed
Right.
by creative and art directors at different companies and I'm MIA for 3 months at a time off the platform, they're not going to think of me when an opportunity comes up to shoot a commercial project for them or a documentary or something. So you kind of have to
Hmm.
play the game a bit, but I guess too is I can reframe the way
Right.
I'm
Right.
looking at it, where it's not really playing a game and it's not feeding into it. I can see it as a tool, which is what it is. And if you can use it intentionally and treat Instagram as just a marketing tool for a business, then there should be no reason to. So I've also thought about maybe outsourcing my Instagram to someone to just be
Uh-huh.
posting for me. But as of now, it's still me, so people can shoot me a message, or what I am looking for is our interesting
Perfect.
projects. So if it's some person doing something really unique or a group of people doing something that you think a story that needs to be told, I would love to hear about it
Hmm.
and love to tell that story. And sure, if you have a company that wants to do some storytelling, and I want to make sure that I'm not working with companies that are just money makers. They're not just like trying to just churn and
Yeah.
just maximize profit, but a company that's more intentional about whether being 1% for the planet or doing something that shows at least a willingness to give back. That's also my ideal commercial
Hmm.
client. But yeah, I'm looking for really stories too. It's just personal projects. It's just personal documentaries, interesting people, interesting things going on. Something that you think a light should be shined on or shown on. Please let me
Right.
know. So my Instagram is ALX Palumbo, PALUMBO, and my website is slacktidefilms.com.
Perfect. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Alex, for taking the time. I know today is jam-packed for you.
Thank you for having me. I was happy to make time for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super stoked. I can't wait for everyone to hear about what you're doing, see what you're doing. I think you've got a definite talent and a way about you that that should be seen and shown. And it's nice to kind of turn that lens over to you, since I know you're behind so many other things and showing other people. So sometimes it's nice to get the spotlight. So I appreciate you. You've been listening to the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast. If it's one that you have been enjoying, please share with anyone else that you think can benefit from this knowledge, and leave us a 5-star review. That helps us get seen and found by other new and aspiring interior designers. And if you're looking for mentorship, I invite you to join our club here at the Design Coven. It's a bridge between school and real life interior design. We get in much deeper there. We have virtual and in-person events, so everyone is welcome. You don't need to have a design degree to be part of it, just an interest in holistic interior design. I also want to thank our editor, Marcy Ferry, Blake Ferris, for all of her special help with the podcast, our social media posts, newsletter, and lastly, Kinseth Thibodeau, who is our music composer. Until next time, be well, and we will see each other soon.